Hi, this video is going to be one of those analysis walkthroughs for one of my favorite games, as well as talking about its mechanics, its history, and stuff I find interesting. I do also have some speculative bits because I have to put that game design degree to use somehow. Uh, okay, go. Severance, Blade of Darkness. With Spanish developer Rebel Act's one and only title that came out in 2001. It's long had a cult following, receiving high praise for what it achieved at the time, but didn't really reach the sales it needed to become profitable. Heck, my dad picked it up in a bargain bin along with Stronghold and Tsar. Even my copy had bestsellers written on it, but like, when though? I played this game when I was very young. There's even an option to turn off all the gore, but Dad didn't know about that. It mostly sat on a shelf because our PC at the time couldn't run it that well. But one PC upgrade and an edgy teen later, I managed to beat it and it's long remained one of my favourite hack and slashes to this day. It's been in and out of abandonware, but if you want to play it I suggest you wait until October with the Steam and GOG re-release under the original name, Blade of Darkness. It has some stability and visual improvements. I'm running the old GOG version on OpenGL. It has some quirks, but you can also do 3DFX Voodoo if that's more your style. If something looks weird in OpenGL, chances are it works fine in Voodoo. It's just a bit temperamental. Box copies aren't hard to come by either, you just have to deal with a lot of guesswork getting it to run, with no one-size-fits-all solution. Also, I don't know what this quote, "done the mask" means. My dumbass thought it would include a little cut-out mask. One of the quirks I mentioned happens right at the start of the game because the intro movie doesn't bloody work. You can find it in the files. All it does is establish a magical sword lady that cries blood, but we'll get into that when we cover story. But for now, this introduction section has a lot to go over because the game has 4 unique character classes, each with their own preferred weapons and starting levels, which I'll briefly look at. First off, the Knight, the standard fighter class. He uses one-handed swords and maces and feels the most fleshed out progression-wise, and probably is the player's first experience with the game.
Find and defeat Ragnar.
You start out breaking out of prison, fighting your way to a courtyard where you burn a box. It's a mechanic that's only used in this level and literally nowhere else in the game. He also gets a unique enemy boss that doesn't appear for the other characters. No, not him.
Prepare to join your comrades in hell.
Him. He's a slippery bastard too, having fake outs and his guard up constantly. He can absolutely brick your health whilst having a health potion of his own that he can use, and he's honestly one of the harder fights in the game. He's even setting up traps for you on your way up to him. Easily the best starting level of the bunch. Just be sure to pick up the big sword and lightsaber and you should be fine. I already beat the game as him as a kid though, so he's also officially baby mode. The Amazonian is a spear user, with dodge rolls giving her the most maneuverability. She's more of a treasure hunter. Her level's a big old tomb where you learn that steep slopes don't work so good. You're kinda left to figure out what to do. The level's constantly tripping you up with traps and maze sections. I'd say it's got puzzles too, but it's just getting the water to lower by pulling a lever. She gets a boat hook that you can swing once, to only level up to let you swing it twice. My suggestion is that you use the bow because I think she actually does way more damage with it than the other characters. This level also has a fun quirk where the final door crashes the game when you go in, and the only way around it is to just turn around and walk in backwards. This kind of thing only happens twice in the game, but the second one is way harder to work around. I could do a whole run as her, but she only gains 2 abilities, suffers from gammy ass syndrome, and unfortunately I can't stand the sound of her attack grunts. So, next. It's weird, they made this joke character who just dies in their introduction cutscene. Oh no, he's alright. The dwarf is a high health defense character similar to the knight, just smaller. His reach puts him a lot in harm's way. You really have to get up to the enemy's grundle to land hits. His level is that he just does dwarf things, you know? Axes, hammers, you know, dwarfs. His level is a dwarf fortress, doing dwarf things. It's got one secret area with an especially mean trap for a new player. This playthrough was originally going to be of him, but his last weapon is a hammer. You call your game Blade of Darkness and have your final weapon be a hammer. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Maybe they were planning to do a thing where you had different versions with preferred weapons. So this leaves us with the Barbarian. You notice these characters have names, but I've made no attempt to pronounce them. But Tucker is going to get a shout out just by looking like one of Conan's mates. He's the game's poster boy, and also noticeably the only one to receive a higher poly render than the other characters. And his weapon roster only has one blunt weapon, and the least amount of time you spend with those the better. So yeah, he's the fella I'm going to play as. I'm not going to show everything. Part of this game is about exploration and finding secrets, some that I don't even know about. I'll point out the important ones, but the more character-specific ones I encourage you to find on your own. There's a whole tutorial I'm not going to cover. I'm your tutorial now. The movement you're walking about is essentially tank controls. You double tap to run, sheathing your weapon lets you move a bit faster and leap further. There's a sneak too, but like the box burning mechanic, it's never really utilized. The way the enemies are positioned, they're going to spot you and you kind of need to kill everything to level up. Your movement's animation based, so you'll be stepping back and forth to adjust. None of that weird scooting around you see in most other games. I feel it was done to add some weight and commitment to your movements, something you would probably expect from a cinematic platformer like Abe's Odyssey or something. Platforming requires a bit of confidence in your timing, but there will be times where the game will just say no and send you plummeting down like Wile E. Coyote. You can save at any time with a judgment counter, but most of my saves are usually before and after these sections. You've also got a combat stance. This is where you can lock on and movement becomes way more fluid. You're strafing now and you do different moves depending on which directional button you have pressed whilst attacking. I call it rigid, but the game is very generous with letting you cancel out of attacks by dodging, with a stamina bar that only drains when you attack, so you're free to dodge as much as you want. But it also means you're usually in range of the enemy when you run out of stamina, and if you don't have enough you do a sleepy attack. But all this combined makes a tense combat experience I've not seen replicated in other games. That's the breakdown of the core gameplay. Let's put it all to use. Tucker's first level is to hang out with his spirit mates because they can't get enough of his sick tribal tattoo.
They're tribal. I'm sorry, what tribe are you from?
It starts off getting a real good look at the water reflections. For 2001, this is really impressive and still look good. You're going through these wide open spaces which you can explore around, but once you know where you're going, you'll be doing a lot of this. The first enemy you'll come across are orcs. They're spongy and go down quick, but they're vicious little bastards with little to no telegraphing on their attacks to catch you out. The portrait has a little number which represents their level, which scales their health and damage. At level 1 they're no threat because a few hits bring them down. Upon the elaborate dismemberment system kicks in. Oh, but it doesn't end there either. You can also pick it up and use it as a weapon. It's nothing but a novelty you'll play around with in the earlier levels, and it's a shame it doesn't evolve into anything. You can even pick up your own head if you want to. Onward with more platforming, you get to this gate section, but if you actually cross over the gate itself, you get a health potion and a bow, a weapon for the Amazon. Their solution to having a character use someone else's weapon is to just swing it around like a dumbass. It's another novelty because your weapon slots are limited to 4. You can still throw them fine, but it's only really beneficial when you're not playing the Barbarian because his weapons do the most raw damage. After a few more orcs you get the next enemy, the orc but bigger. I'm gonna call them ogres from now on. But no, they're just orcs again, but with more health and damage. And you can bait them into hitting each other because they can infight too. They're usually given better weapons and shields too, so they come across as more menacing. Once you've dealt with that, drop down here and backtrack a bit. You'll find a power potion. Drinking it gives you a temporary boost to your attack and defense and a placed off the beaten path. Following down the path leads you to the second part of the secret area, giving you an early death sword. You won't have enough stamina to use it properly, but you can still throw it. After this, you're introduced to zombies. Their thing is to act more like moving barricades. Not really a threat, and you really have to go out your way to actually get hit by them. I also level up here, which grants you more health and damage, as well as letting you learn new abilities and special moves. They have a very telegraphed poison attack by throwing up on you, but you have to be very bad at the game to let that happen. This was just for demonstration purposes, honest. Get used to seeing this. They also gradually fall apart as you damage them, but get their heads off and they die instantly. Going into this building, your dense ass breaks the floor and you're ambushed by spiders. I always thought they were poisonous, but they're not. They're barely in the game either. They're only hard to hit because most of your attacks go over them, but that's about it. And they don't complement anything in the game either. They go down in one hit and just aren't good. Get them in the bin. You keep on going and there's this section where a zombie breaks down the wall. And I'm not sure if this is one of those elaborate game design teaching lessons because you have to do this later. In a room that has a similar lead up to this one. So maybe it's teaching you subconsciously that you can break walls down. Ooh. The patchy wood texture is a hint, but it isn't always the case in some places. So after breaking down said wall, you're ambushed by these weird little meat creatures that give you a crunch. I'm not sure what any of these enemies are actually called because they're not really properly named. They're referenced as critter, bug, and little thing in the files. I even found a Spanish magazine that covered this game and they called it a bichito, which translates to sweetheart. But to me, they look like baby shamblers from Quake. They're like the spiders where you have to use low moves to hit them, but they actually fall apart properly. And once you do, you realize they're just sentient pieces of ham, but you can't eat them unfortunately. One clambering through a window later, you get to this section with the totem. And meet the skeletons, an enemy that's used way too much for my liking. They often go for their 3-hit combo, but they can decide to stop it if they want to. Part of me knows that they're probably weaker to blunt weapons, but I've already decided that I'm dying on this hill with a sword in my hand. So they're going to remain a pain in my ass into the later levels until I get a hold of the Rhino Club. At this point you've met all the enemies this level throws at you. After some light puzzles and some boulder dodging sequences, the second boulder leads you into this room to the left where you can get the second tier weapon, the Eclipse. This gives the Barbarian a whole new moveset that's actually absent from the other characters. They tend to have less reach than the swords in favor of wider arcs. After this you get one final ambush before the level wraps up. I get caught in a pickle and try to break away to use the power potion and no final boss for Tucker though. It's here we learn that his ancestors know something about a great evil in places like
Valaskaif.
and stuff, and well, we'll talk about the story later. At the end of this level you're brought to this world map, along with the narrator telling you the situation and what to do next. From your starting point you can either go to the mines of KELBEGEN or the fortress of HALAF. The order you choose doesn't matter, although I do have a theory that it used to matter. There's a slight level scaling if you choose the levels in the order opposite of what I'm doing. It's more dependent on the character you choose, as some levels grant weapons earlier than other levels, but for now I'm going to choose the mines. The mines of KELBEGEN are dwarven mines because of course they are, having an opening section full of environmental hazard and absolutely zero dwarves. You've arrived at the aftermath of the orcs taken over and they're after the same treasure you are, I think. Straight off you're going to get a boulder trap, but if you stand under the ledge you climb up it just flies over you. These kind of traps are a panic for a new player, so I'm not going to reveal every trap from now on. The only hint I'll give is to sheath your weapon before any jump, otherwise you might not make it. Please make this jump, please make this jump, I know you're tiny but I want to make the jump! No, he didn't make that jump. Further down the path you get this fight with this bastard popping shots at you. And an ogre with a poisonous sword. Try not to get hit by it too much. Its damage it takes off seems to be percentage based, so it's always going to be a problem for you. It'll go away eventually by itself, but if you want to get rid of it early you can just drink a health potion, or use the travel rations that barely appear. After this section you're let out into the main hub of the area. You're out to collect 3 gems to let you into an inner sanctum that are scattered around the mines. And if you go down this route, you get to finish off the archer bastard from earlier. And don't forget to eat your crust. Skipping over some stuff, we're jumping straight into the red gem ambush. Pick it up, but that's not what we're really here for. Carrying down this route, you can break down this weak wall to get the scythe. Your next weapon, although it's kind of awkward to land hits just because of the way this game calculates collision. This area loops around nicely and you're back to the elevator you came down on, along with the hub area being repopulated with some more stuff to kill. For the next gem you need to go down this section, with an ogre on a narrow walkway. You want to lure him off, but he's fizzled out on me.
Make it impossible, bitch.
And careful not to lock on because the strafing can send you off the edge. After a big jump in this outside area, drop down and break the wall to your right. It's here you get your first secret rune. There's 6 in total, and even if you don't pick them up as you go along, you get another shot later on. Down this route you eventually get to this rock you have to climb as the room fills with acid. Although if you're playing the Amazon, she climbs so slow she has to take damage here no matter what. So once you get to the top, your character's going to seize up. This is a problem with the game taking over your character that's set to walk to a point to trigger a cutscene. You just have to keep alt-tabbing in and out and it eventually corrects itself. It's an OpenGL thing. Once you get the first glyph, it shows up in your HUD. They're all found in the earlier levels and are well hidden, so keep your peepers out for them. One short trek later and you're in an ambush with those little meat fellas to get the green gem. Looping around once again to the hub area, but keep to the left instead of going back to the center. It takes you to the blue gem and... Aw, hey, look at him. Hey! Bootleg, shambler-looking, rotary chicken, little shit. Okay, instead of following him, you can turn around and get to the gem way quicker. This isn't even a chase sequence, it's just where he spawns after the cutscene. This level can be pretty long if you don't know what you're doing. The shortcuts are pretty useful, but the lack of vistas make it difficult to know where you're back somewhere you've already been. With all 3 gems, fight your way back to the hub and into the chamber to plug the gems in. Depending if you chose to dwarf this as a new enemy, you'd think the big build-up would mean to a tough fight, but the cave troll is a pushover compared to what you've already faced. His attacks hit hard, but they're way too slow and telegraphed. You only fight a few of these in the game, and in terms of larger enemies they have better things to throw at you, so they just do that instead. Finishing up this level, you take a gentle fall that I don't think you can avoid to take damage on. This is one of those games you can beat without a scratch. The way the enemies fight and your generous health pool encourage you to trade hits, rather than using some sub-mechanic to clean house. What was that?
On his return from the War of the Sword, Fire was greeted with celebration and appointed king at the base of the mountain.
Yeah, it turns out it's not all grunts and yells, all 4 characters talk. Although don't take this to them having any kind of personality. They all have the same script read, and narrows down to just stoic and knowing exactly what's going on. Not me though, I'm still clueless.
In her honor, and to protect her from any further evil.
Tel Halaf is the principal fortress of the Knights of the Armina region. For generations, their dukes have kept the peace and ensured free passage through the district. Lord Kerman, Paladin of the Order, governs the garrison with an iron...
Okay, there's a lot of downtime in this level as it doesn't really introduce anything new, and it made me realize to play this level first and then do the mines, as it will probably make the troll tougher too. And there's a good chance to talk about the level design and my little theory on why there are points where you select levels. So the levels seem to follow a pattern. They're all roughly 20 minutes long once you know what you're doing. From the fly-throughs you get from the beginning to get a sense of tone and theme, which, let's face it, is usually a castle.
Look at those graphics. Fuck!
To the levels having a lot of verticality so they can fold over and loop in on themselves, which is always pleasant and makes you go, oh wow, to avoid backtracking. And I'll be sure to point out the more interesting ones as they come up. Even with the breakable props, the levels are rather static, because as it stands it's just crates and pots which show off their physics engine. I'm also surprised, as there are times where you can just run through a big chunk of the level. It's not encouraged anyway because you lose out on XP, otherwise it's just finding the guy who has the key to get through. As for what I reckon, I feel like originally, depending on which level you chose first, you would have been present with the orcs attacking, only getting the version we have now as your second choice. But where this game really doesn't have friendly NPCs as well as trusting the player to not kill them instantly, so it probably wasn't a priority. There's even some evidence to this, because when you do the Dwarfs intro level, you're arriving as the invasion is happening, but everything is just out of reach for you to change the tide of the fight. Okay, back to this level, I don't know. It seems like it was meant to have a lot more stuff in it that was cut. The early part repeats itself so much that you feel like you're backtracking. Just grey bricks and orcs everywhere. It's an interesting layout though, because I imagine it's taken inspiration from a real life fort. But as a fun video game level, it's a lot of downtime to finally get inside the fortress, and then at that point it's pretty much over. Just look for the ogre with the potion. Then you have to do this weird bit where you walk along this ledge to get a key for later. I remember finding this key my first time, so it wasn't much of a problem. This could easily be a headache if you didn't know and have to spend ages searching for it. It's mostly orcs and ogres until you find the secret room and make your way down to the throne room with a dying man
Friend, we have been betrayed. The orcs fell on us during the night. My lord the Duke, my life ebbs away.
And it made me realize how comically huge the keys are. And a scroll that you never read. On your way out, the next room is to your left, and it's really fun, and you should go do it. Pull the lever and finally get to the boss, which is, oh, that's it? Okay. The narrator even says there was trolls and some powerful creature that I guess up and left before we got there.
The fortress has been taken by an army of malevolent orcs. However, their chief was no simple orc.
This is the game's weakest level, but don't worry, we'll fix it later.
In EPHYRA, the mad King Azud ordered his dwarven artisans to build a temple guarding the tomb of his wife, the great Queen Asha, and all her secrets. A few years later, when he died, he was buried in a chapel near the temple. After that, several kings of the Ishabad were buried there. The temple and the tombs were abandoned many years ago, and since then they have become famed as a place of peril. They say that many tomb robbers and other adventurers have disappeared there, giving it the reputation of an accursed spot. All the actions of the enemy seem to suggest a search for some particular object or information which they didn't find in Tel Halaf or KELBEGEN. Their next target will probably be EPHYRA.
This is where the game's pretty much done pulling punches. This level is long enough that it actually has 2 bosses and it's easier to split into 4 sections because eventually you're going to bump into something that requires a key to progress. And during these longer levels you need to conserve health because, as I said, taking damage is inevitable. You're going to want to climb up this side route instead of going through the arch. It saves you the hassle of getting hit by arrows when you're clearing out the area. And don't forget to take the fucking bow for yourself. I also just want to highlight the squabble I got into. Alongside dodging, you can also block to avoid damage. But with two-handed weapons, it's a timed parry, and because of this, they have durabilities, so...
It will not kill.
This surprised me because I forgot it was a thing. Parrying doesn't even grant you anything, and depending on the enemy, they can just follow it up with a regular attack anyway. Although with a shield, it's faster to try block than dodge. But then you're gambling on whether the durability can take the hit. I'll quickly mention special attacks as I'm hopping around because you'll see them come up more. You get abilities as you level up, but additionally each weapon has its own special attack, varying between absolutely useless to arguably the best move in the game. Moving on. You'll end up at this tower and search it properly like I didn't, so I had to backtrack. Get to the top and make this ogre's AI shit itself.
Have you met me brother? He's in the mine level.
Make your way back down by dropping through the floors, pick up the parchment with a key, and don't forget to bully this dimwit. This next section is filled with hordes of them, so try to stick to wider attacks to chip at as many as possible. There's secrets when you break into these crypts. If you're the dwarf, this is where you get his stinky hammer. Ooh, nasty. As well as a ghost medallion, which cures you and makes you immune to poison and has 2 charges. To explain items quickly, you're mainly going to be picking up these 3 types of health potions, as the others you drink on the spot. There's food items too that become useless outside the very early game. I feel like they should have been percentage based, because sometimes there's nothing more revitalizing than a big hunk of cheese. On the way down there's this collapsed area. You'd expect it to be some kind of secret, but it actually has the graveyard key. After this you get a free power potion and a zombie run. If you already have one, I suggest you come back to this area after you use it and not do what I do here. Once you're out, you open the gate and you get ready for your first wave arena. There's no running from this, it's just you and a bunch of skeletons. Try to keep them bundled up and hitting each other, but be sure to land the last hit, otherwise you won't get any experience. And also don't try to use health potions because you've got a boss fight next. I mean, there's not really much to say about the flaming skeleton except how well the intimidation factor works. You're in this dark cave and your only light source is fighting you back, and he's actually not a pushover. He can do a number on you even with a power potion and tank a lot of damage, and is very likely to beat you to the punch if you don't time your special moves right. After this, you're given a king shield and a little fetish statue. The button to the next rune is in here too, just shoot an arrow at it. After this, there are way too many skeletons to your next destination. I do kinda like this section. It goes to show how a lock-on doesn't necessarily mean you're glued to one target. Because of your variety of attacks, you're constantly making decisions on which attacks to be used based on their positions. So this is the chapel, which is just more skeleton ambushes. Get behind the statue and use the little statue on it earlier. Now you gotta go to the balcony to pull 2 more levers to enter the tomb. This level didn't need padding, but it's starting to take the piss a bit. But then again, I wouldn't have gotten this clip of me and a skeleton trading nutshots. Once you're in the tomb, I completely forget to show this, but this is where you can get the armor upgrade for the Dwarfen Knight, along with completely ignoring this floor trap that I forgot was a thing. The home stretch is just more fucking stinky skeletons. Reach the center of the room where you get to the second boss, the Golem. You're probably not intimidated by anything that's level 1 at this point, and if you're using a blunt weapon you'd be right, but having only bladed weapons he's an absolute tank, stumbling and tumbling over you, even as a ranged attack where he grows a rock out of his hand and throws it at you. The best option is to bait out his "I'm gonna swing my arms and if you're in the way it's your fault" attack, and then get him during his recovery. The level ends once you pick up the Queen's Sword, using the reasoning that you need to gather magical weapons to beat the bad guys up with. But every other weapon works fine too, so Hey, have any of you played Tsar? Wish I could tell you the name of this level, but it's cut off. This is another level with a lot of downtime just because it's a lot of what we've already seen, but we get some new stuff.
For centuries, the Tower of the Isle of KARUM was a bastion for the knights in the inhospitable and perilous lands of Zagra. Finally, it was lost. The knights abandoned the fortress, and so the path to commerce was closed, and knowledge of it faded from the minds of men.
New stuff like elemental weapons. Their base damage is low, but is made up for the fact of their special move and damage type, which is useful for some enemies. Everyone gets the Queen's Blade, but it's weird because it's not adapted to their specialization, so I'm stuck using it like a dingus. You can steal health from enemies with a special move, but in a stroke of genius, the level where you get to use it on starts with a bunch of undead, which you can't get health from. I mean, it makes sense, but I shrugged it off and just went back to using the weapons I have a full moveset for. This level I'm just wandering around in, because so much of it looks like somewhere else and some areas you never have to go in. But there's some cool atmospheric touches, like there's this dragon overhead, and the verticality encourages you to look around. But the camera controls are awkward and don't really lend themselves for viewing environments. There is a first-person camera which is nice, but it has the same issues. Here's my reaction to discovering it during the stream I did for this game's 20th anniversary.
I never knew that. What the fuck? That's hot. Oh, wow. I can't tell when I'm blocking. That might be a problem. Oh wait, I'm pressing the wrong button to block. Oh no, I can tell. There's a little arm comes up. but it's to scale as well. He's like 4'4". Everyone else is taller than him. Oh fuck!
You get up on these walls and grab the iron key. Go up the stairs and drop down into this building and grab the Slayer's sword. And it really does live up to its namesake. These weapons are starting to enter JRPG sizes with no signs of stopping. This weapon has 3 inputs to do the special move, having to set up enough distance between you and the target for it to actually land like you're hyping it up. It reminds me of Lloyd's dream sequence from Dumber and Dumber. I kinda get why, because it's a powerful attack, and you have to time it right to not get interrupted, but other weapons get simpler inputs and are way more powerful. One of Tucker's quirks is that his up attack has a built-in fake out. And for some reason they use this move in almost all of his sword specials. You have to wait for the animation to finish and it already requires awkward timing to pull off, which makes his sword specials more hassle than they're worth, along with the enemies also being able to just stray to one side of you whilst you're doing it. After all this squinting, there's actually a way to speed up combos, which involves jumping between each input, which cancels out the current animation in favour of the next move. Oh, you get the knight's second armor upgrade here as well too. The main hassle is finding the dungeon key to get into the second half of the level. But for now, flip the switch and drain this really crusty looking lava. You think this would be a rune, but it's actually just a lore dump and a power potion for your troubles. It's here we learn the little bastard who's been setting up all these trap rooms. and that we need 4 keys and 6 runes to unlock the full potential of the Sword of IANNA. Oh, who's the sword from the cutscene and the pause menu. Heading out, we go to this floor below where there's a breakable wall with a bracelet. It increases damage resistance but doesn't carry over into the next level. Same with all the jewelry, I think. Continue on into this toilet trap room that finally contains the dungeon key. The second half introduces you to a new enemy, the Dark Knight. They will most likely be carrying a poisonous weapon, but also the means to cure it if you kill them before they drink their potion. So I try to get him down before any of that happens. He hits me and my tactics have to change to trying to kill him as quickly as possible, not to lose too much health from the poison. Just like you, they have a variety of attacks depending on where you are and what you've done. With little to no wind up of their attacks, and you're pretty much playing mind games trying to predict which move they're going to do. And even then they can fake you out. Okay, I can't avoid it anymore. I have to talk about the archery. A last resort weapon because it's just so clunky. You have no reticule, have to deal with jank aim, and you can only carry 10 arrows at a time. Realistic? Kinda. Fun and practical? No. They even have to compensate the archers by giving them low health because you can't reach them with your weapon. And half the time they're not even worth dealing with because you have to be extremely precise for it to land. You even get headshot damage as well. You can't drop the bow either. Unless you're going for early runes, the game usually gives you one in a situation where it's needed to solve a puzzle. There's even cut features like fire arrows and other types of bows, one of which you can see the Amazon using at the character select screen. Any other points of the bow can be summarized by this clip.
Gimme! Stuff is so hard to aim. It's still missing it. Like, it's so sensitive that you... Come on! Oh my god, stop shooting me! Stop it! Oh my god, why can't I hit him? Look at how bloody I am. It's good. I'm not moving on until I've killed this motherfucker. Oh my god, hit him! Hit him! Yes! Yes! Ugh! Come here, you...
Flopping ahead, we land into an arena fight with a Minotaur. Another slow giant enemy type. Only more dangerous because most of their attacks have wide sweeps but have a long recovery. The approach is very touch and go, because you're not so much trading hits than you are trying to avoid getting steamrolled. You're blessed with an open space to fight him, but they don't last. I do like whenever an enemy is on low health, they start to stagger and flinch. It creates a decision on whether you risk getting exhausted by following up or continuing to be careful. If you go into the little room he came out of, you get rewarded with the double edge. One of the better weapons in the game, as the special has an easy setup. From here it's the last section of climbing the tower, and it's pretty much a section to show off the lighting by doing the Doom 3 meme by showing off how dark it can make everything. Shadows stretch and skew in real time and would give otherwise dull visuals some life. I'll talk about the visuals in a bit, but for now we have 2 enemy fights to get through. The first is a lesser demon, which isn't a fitting name at all. They're these amalgamations of twisted skin and bones that I don't think belongs to him. Also, due to his asymmetrical design, they were hand animated rather than mocap. I absolutely love this design. I even painstakingly copied the concept art from their website because we didn't have a printer at the time. And here's me 18 years later drawing it from memory. Their attacks are frantic and desperate, with a natural weakness to bladed weapons, so you think they want to die. They're fairly weak, so naturally I nearly die to it as well. And instead of keeling over, they do this instead when they die. Honestly, it's like you're doing them a favor. And finally, after talking to a wall to learn more about the keys, save your game, because this is where you learn the optimal gesture to reload the game. The vampire is the game's first brick wall. He is such a bastard that there's a move every character gets, specifically to deal with his bullshit. From the get-go, he's pretty much controlling the pace of the fight. constantly teleporting behind you for a sucker punch. It also disengages your lock-on, so you have to jump away or try get him with the back attack. The margin for drinking a potion during the fight is so thin it's not even worth it. Even power potions can fuck you over. Because of his shield, if he blocks, the damage is reflected back to you. You can't even feel confident that you've dealt damage to him, as he's got lifesteal, so even if you're winning, he can turn the tables on you. Here I land a special move landing all 3 hits from the double edge on him, but he still has his shield, so I try wait for an opening. I'd feel like he'd stagger, so I throw my weapon at him hoping to follow it up by switching to the sword. As I do, he hits me, putting his health back up, and at that point I realise I can't pick up the axe after the fight. Finally managed to pick it up where he just wipes the floor with me. This might just underline how bad I am at the game, but I was convinced I had him that time. You can also use the bracelet during the fight, which I forgot to do, oops. I mean, how's this for bullshit? And that's why Tucker wears brown.
Our victory is assured because my lord is invincible.
He gets so pissed off that he T-poses onto the dragon that was flying around earlier and leaves.
The enemy has fled. A malign creation of necromancy, he was no more than a minion.
From here it gets a bit weird. Unlike the last time where you have 2 distinct levels to choose, they actually open up into 2 different routes. But I'm guessing this is done because you've got 2 extremes of what is essentially the road to the ice level and the fire level. But this does suggest you trek all the way back on yourself again. The narrator suggests you go to
SHALATUWAR,
fortress.
orcs, a people who have always been independent and strong, now serve the enemy, compelled to fight by a force more powerful than they.
So the Orc Fortress is a fun level. It doesn't really introduce anything new, just combining a lot of what we've already seen to make interesting scenarios. They even try get you with the old boulder trap. It also has a lot of character moments too.
Thank you, my friend.
There's only a handful of these in the game, but you get a sense of how mischievous the orcs are. You get a good payday as the barbarian by breaking down this wall that doesn't look breakable, and you receive your only armor upgrade, giving yourself a mean piece of shoulder armor. And I'd like to point out, until now, the only thing that seemed to be properly protected were his knees and his nutsack. And I'd like to thank Rabilact as the pioneers of cod pieces in video games.
The road of the heroes led them to the fertile valley.
Interesting. You also get the flat sword here, which becomes a mainstay if you take this route. Its special attack doesn't require fake out, and it's got really long reach compared to the other swords. So this first start you're looking for a key, so just tumble through the fortress until you find the ogre holding it. I'll admit they get pretty easy. Head back to the gate where you actually get some kind of weird arena spectacle featuring a very eccentric ogre. He opens up with a group of orcs followed by a minotaur. And ends with him, where you pulled the lever to open the other gate. We've got some downtime here, so let's talk visuals. Graphically, the game is rather standard for 2001, back when having grubby little mitts with your fingers drawn on and a JPEG as a face was the norm. It's more the Blade Engine's tech and unique art direction that carries it. The creatures, the weapons, the water, the lighting, the shadows, the visceral dismemberment and gore keep it visually appealing. From a developer interview, the interiors are essentially carved out of a starting shape, leading to a lot of environments looking boxy, as carving intricate buildings took time they didn't have. To make up for this, there's a lot of interesting murals and texture work when it's not constant castle stone, and it was mainly good at making outdoorsy and wide open spaces. As a result, everything looks handcrafted, chunky and durable, like a 90s action playset. And whether intentionally or not, the bulky designs give off the feeling of bashing action figures together. And as an adult man-child, this is something I always strive to return to. Using its own engine definitely had its perks and it was worth it in my opinion, but I mean, it was also competing with the likes of Unreal at the time. Okay, let's see where I'm at. Looks like I've lost too much health and softlocked myself. Yeah, I think I'll go for the power potion. Oh, and I got double bonked, didn't I? Let's power up before we open the door this time. If you notice, you actually have 2 different drinking speeds, depending if you're in or out combat, which you can't cancel out of, so you're stuck until the end of the animation.
All I can do is drink this and hope for the best. He was stuck in the fucking drinking animation.
The fight's at least a bit more fair, though my health is still ticking down. Another way of doing this is if I killed them fast enough, I would have leveled up and recovered all my health. Once you get the key, head to the cells and be treated with the best cutscene in the game.
Thank you, my friend. Although you come too late, but there is still hope, and only the sacred markings on the stones reveal the way. Come with me. Let us leave this dungeon, and while we walk, I shall explain to you how to recognize the signs. No!
This is the first time any character gets a chance to say anything dramatically, so let's see how everyone else handles it.
How to recognize the signs. No! How to recognize the signs. No! To recognize the signs. No!
I like the way his head falls off. Guess he really was wounded. Wrap up with a few more ogres and an elevator ride, ending the level where you first start out.
Lord Kerman has died. He was weakened by his captivity and illness, and a cruel blade sealed his fate.
Okay. It's time to address the story as we get more downtime until the later half of this level. To be blunt, the story doesn't matter. You're always too late to events and you're left cleaning up the aftermath. It talks about finding allies, but you seem to be doing fine on your own. This is lowest fantasy setting, meaning magic is rare and all the elves are dead. There's no proof of this, but trust me, they're all dead. The elf sword isn't for elves, it's for killing elves. But there's a lot of effort put in, as some of the visuals and lore are mixed between different mythologies and cultures to create something unique. But the narrator carries the story even though you understand none of it. His delivery alone makes it believable. It's like being a fly on the wall in a D&D session.
And the trolls, undoubtedly the fruits of necromancy.
Each level does come with its own description written as a journal entry in the F1 menu, but I always forget to check it. None of this really comes across in gameplay though. It's just big evil bad fella coming to do your head in. And you're the selection which geezer becomes IANNA's champion. Ah, I guess he fell asleep on me. Huh. Wakey wakey! Alright, the level. There's some good fighting sections like this courtyard, and they even give the knights interesting weapon sets so you know which ones to prioritize. It's kinda weird beating up regular knights, but this is more of a continuation of Sargon's starting level, I think, where you're pretty much in their main fortress and taking a peek under the curtain of what they're up to. Don't forget to eat your crust. Like for one, they're keeping minotaurs and pens. So yeah, just quietly sneak out and explore around. Hey, this building looks pretty cool. Oh, god damn it! I have no clue why they throw a level 13 Minotaur straight after a level 3 one. They have way too much health and you're not really equipped to deal with it, so you're just baiting out attacks and chipping at his health bar. I'm convinced this was a mistake because he straight up gives me 2 levels up when I kill him.
Oh wait, I'm dead.
After this you get into the meats of this level because you're now in an ominous chapel. The regular knights stop and they've become dark ones. And there's no way in hell I'm going to give him a sip of that full health potion. So yeah, I'm guessing they're channeling some evil power to become more powerful here. And the ones that don't make the cut get fed to the Minotaurs? I don't know, just shoot the dang rune button. It's behind you as you're going up some stairs. Keep going over this bridge and you get to these 2 walls that need symbols to open and oh, I don't have them yet because you gotta go down here. And so far so good. They're both down here, and okay, take them. Not this way. Not this way. No!
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock.
It's good we're at the end of the level, so just put these in. And it does that fucking freeze thing again, so I have to keep Alt-tabbing to move them around until I get the trigger. Oh, there it goes. Oh no. Long story short, I'm 29 saves in now, which isn't bad. The game still calls me heroic, but I'm glad it doesn't count how many times I have to load the game. After you beat the abomination, you're awarded with a square. Oh, it's a visual glitch. But it's the first key gem. But it's either a missing image or just doesn't have transparency enabled. It's not a deal breaker. It's good this game doesn't have any visual bugs that make it unplayable though. We're so deep in snow now, the game's artistic direction has changed. Nothing but the sound of your feet squishing in the snow. A level of just you against the silhouettes of enemies, staining the blood with snow and dirt. Okay, where the fuck do I go? What do you mean it's not supposed to look like this? Okay, never mind all that, you need to download a fog fix for this map. It looks fine, I guess. It's at this point I realise I missed the ice axe because I thought it was in this level. Which is unfortunate because it's kind of useful. I'll take this moment to talk about the music. It was composed by Oscar Araujo. And a lot of it is memorable, even if it is just ambient drums when you're exploring. And you also get a lot of combat music with different intensities. I assume some of it's built off orchestral sound samples because there's some pieces that sound familiar if you've played Heroes 3. And I'm pretty sure I've heard this thing before. And I know for a fact the world map theme is used in TV shows. Although whether it is or not doesn't really matter because the music is memorable and fitting. Same with the audio, from the crunchy footsteps, the drawing of the weapon, the over-enthusiastic combat grunts obviously. The orc cry as it spreads towards you, the whoosh of the weapons to the meaty slice of your hit connects, all creates a unique soundscape. The audio itself is high quality, but it's more the sound mixing itself is the problem. It's what makes playing the Amazon so hard. You get the audio cutting over itself with other characters. It's the worst with her because it's extremely loud compared to everything else. I mean, the worst culprit is actually the menus. There's a ton of nice touches too, like the cleaning of armor plates when enemies shuffle around.
Why is he doing that?
And the variety of sounds depending on what kind of enemy you're hitting. So without the fog, this level was a bunch of tight space interconnecting caves leading to the fortress within the gorge. You get a big leap in the weapon roster because you pick up the Doom Axe here, although I don't use it because I forgot to pick it up. Not that I'd use it much, especially you unlock it level 18 and it's pretty strong, but again it's got a wind up as part of the animation. This level feels pretty short. You've got some good ambush sequences and you see more trolls that are kind of tough to deal with now that they're a higher level. Once you're in the fort, don't forget to pick up the orb. Backtrack from when you came in and you open up the middle section which reveals the second key. Where straight after you're immediately up against an ice golem, and I have to deal with him with only 200 health. Having a fire weapon might make this fight easier, but it's more of what we've already seen. And if you fight him outside, you've also got to deal with archers too, who absolutely beans me one time. So at this point we've pretty much seen every enemy this game has to throw at you. There's a lot of retextures which is fine for variety. For example, the golem's elemental status changes depending on which type it is. But it doesn't matter too much because they're all weak to blunt weapons. There are cut enemies as well. There's a salamander that just isn't used in the campaign, as well as some unused reskins that were supposed to be stronger versions of reoccurring enemies. I think all the original creature designs stand out. But you do get a standard lineup of fantasy creatures that are all creatively depicted. But except, you know, there's only so much you can do with a skeleton. Although I do kind of wish they had enemies that use two-handed weapons. On the way out, you face off against a frost troll, and these special moves aren't getting the kind of numbers you need, so he's tanking hits. He's even got his own little cave with a selection of meats. To me, this is level 9, but we're on the other path now. But this level is kind of long, so it'd be easier to split into two halves. It's out of the realm of a tomb or a fortress, and it looks more like a civilian location. A luxury bathhouse in the middle of the desert. The exteriors have these sharp shadows and sandstone structures, and I'm getting hot and sweating just looking at it. Even the orcs are thirsty, carrying around little water bottles, as they've taken over and have gone absolutely nuts with archer placement. Chances are if there's a high platform, there's going to be an archer on top of it. You're really spending a lot of the time just reopening the place after it being run down. Turning into this area, you see that poor Sargon's got himself locked in the sauna. I do really like this touch where you bump into your other character choices, but it only happens here. I feel like there should have been a bit where you would see them in a jail and you can let them go or something. Or a bit where you face off against another one because you're all after the same thing after all. Anyways, sadly you need to ignore him because you need a key to get out, which won't be for a while, so he just has to hang in there, I guess. More stuff that freaks would call game design. They let you know that you might have to break stuff in order to progress, by putting this potion behind a pillar. Straight after this, you're presented with the poster sword, aptly named the Big Sword. You gotta do the annoying wind-up, but the special attack is a thrust attack, which is, cool, I guess. What's that? Some downtime? I guess we can talk about how damage works. You get to see your raw damage output of POW! And how much damage you absorbed with death. There's also some hidden resistance values, but you're left to figure out which enemy is weak to what. It's pretty basic, but I think it works for a game like this. But also, these numbers are only active with the weapon drawn, so if you have it on your back, you take less damage, so speedrunners have a breeze going through most of the areas. Working your way through the baths, you end up picking up a key that you need to unlock the sauna. Kill the zombies that are assumed were steamed to death and head on up to help your mate out. Only for those dirty orcs to try the same trick on you. And also, if you notice, the grate they're looking for is one you can see at the beginning of the level. But you can let yourself out only receiving a gentle steaming. And with your new key, you can let yourself into the staff room. And, okay, I guess I can't keep the spa bit going. Damn it. So the main level opens up a bit and your goal is to get through this door. But for some reason, there's also this whole extensive area where you're looped around an underpass, letting you into the last section via the bottom floor. It's worth it for the XP, but if you just want to get the door open, just drop down here and head the elevator up. Oh yeah, we're back in tombs, so expect more fucking skeletons. But we also get another rune. Just hit the top of this door, and unlike the others, I'm actually going to continue assuming you did this because you actually get to skip a section where you just do a boring light puzzle. To do this, you just have to hit the buttons before the angry man with the glowing square eyes gets you, where you're gently lowered behind an unsuspecting minotaur. Bumble around for a bit, kill a golem and you're in front of another tomb. This is another section where the game takes control of your character, so save before you come in here. And this one really takes the piss because it moves you forward into an ambush. One that sets off anyway because they start chasing you whether you're in the right spot or not. After the skeletons, read the tombstone and you get a level 1 vampire boss. But he's nowhere near as difficult as the last one, but I have 200 health and the self-damage from the shield is enough to send me packing. Once you get him down, the level just abruptly ends. We get more desert locales, this time with a large open layout that actually does a lot of its blocky limitations. I like the exterior with these large murals and symbols. In fact, this level seems more decorated in general. A lot of unique assets and textures are used here. The first part of this level involves reading the Door Oracle, and finding the means of offering fire and water to their respective altars, the latter being an empty bottle which is found a bit above the water altar. Before we get the offerings though, give a hop, skip and a jump over to the backmost area where you fight a golem and find the final rune. I do like how these rune rooms are being handled. Being treasure in nature, it's down to exploration and puzzles to find them. But I think it kinda relied too much on shoot this high up thing with the bow for me though. Oh hey, crust. Anyway, for the offerings, make sure you equip your bottle and drop down here where you'll die. Wait, no. Go back to where you go under a bridge and find a sacred pool and use the empty bottle on it. Now with your bottle of sacred water, pour it onto the altar. The fire needs a torch which are on the right side of this pit section. Head to the opposite side of the bridge and do the same as last time. You'd think this opens the main temple, but it doesn't. It opens up this section here on top of spawning a bunch of Dark Knights you have to deal with from now on. From here, drop down and get the crypt key and face up against a golem. Actually, we'll get back to him. Keep on over the bridge, and you get to this horrible encounter with 3 Dark Knights, and I really need that health potion. Keep going and chuck that double axe away and make all the pros of this game angry. All 2 of them. And get the Rhino Club, where you see all the satisfaction of the game's mutilation system vanish because it's turned off when using blunt weapons. There's no crushing skulls or breaking bones variant, I'm afraid. They are, however, very good at taking down golems, so go finish him off and get the temple to present you with a little hole to shove your shaft into. But before we do that, I'm going to assume you know what hitboxes are. Only for that I now need you to throw the entire concept away because this game uses traces. You see, the weapon itself isn't what hurts the enemy. It's the trail itself, and trails are fun. It's how they do all that hair-skimming close encounter stuff that's perfect for a melee-focused game. And all you need to do is set the area of the weapon where the trail is drawn. Neat. I did already do the Blade of Darkness bit earlier, but I was kinda serious. Chopping with swords and axes is just way more fun. Seeing all that surgical precision is completely lost when it comes to blunt weapons. And stab attacks too, really, because they don't come anywhere near that satisfactory strength a core visual is built on. And I need to reiterate that these traces are drawn only on the edge of the weapon. So yeah, spears and some other weapons can routinely just phase through enemies just because the tracer location is higher up. Basically, this is all stuff I think that could have been ironed out in a second iteration. As it stands though, it just reminds me of the sad missed opportunity it was for Rebel to close down after release. So where did we leave off? Something about shafts? Oh, hang on, we haven't got the staff yet. Go back into the area opened earlier and unlock the crypt. This is where the game gets almost creepy because you're in these catacombs with no light sources and zombies everywhere. This area was just begging for a Minotaur ambush, but they were kind enough not to do that. I did my best to spruce up the place before leaving, but I assumed it would unlock a secret area, but nah. Anyway, go grab the stuff and trek all the way back. It's weird, they set you up so you're in a vulnerable state, but they don't do anything with it. Although it does do a pathetic attempt to regenerate your health every so often. Once you're back, really jam that stuff into the round hole to crack the temple open finally. Where you're shown this weird green beam supreme puzzle that's really just an elaborate key to open a door. So go upstairs and... The fuck you doing in here? Although look at how there's no blood or impact or anything when you hit stuff with blunt weapons. Boo! So fight your way upstairs and find the gem just sitting there. This level so far has featured a lot of unique ways to progress, and this kinda just ends on a sour note. Shove your gem in the hole and make your way down to the Flaming Skeleton Gauntlet, which I'm gonna give you a special dwarf version of this fight.
2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't start a cutscene when I'm fucking fighting something. Look at that. I'm getting. I'm just I'm dead. I died. What the fuck?
Chuck yourself down the hole, and despite saying that the yellow key would be guarded by Sawan the Traveller,
Where Sawan, the Erected, guards the yellow gem.
there's no one here and the key's just left on the floor, so maybe you're up and buggered off. If you're still doubtful of how effective blunt weapons are, you get 2 golems on your way out to practice on. Welcome to the hot zone. I can't tell you how much of a roadblock this level is, because when it's not throwing constant minotaurs at you, you're navigating around lava or getting poisoned. Usually all 3 at once. The environment is fitting, because this is as close to hell this good Christian boy is gonna get. Oh, not me, I've already got a reservation. I meant Tucker. You know that thing in the corner of the screen that once it hits 0 you fall over? You're really gonna need it not to do that. You can't go slinking around with low health in this one, because no matter how hard I try, this level always manages to get me at least once, just because there's so many combat encounters that wither me away. Fortunately, this level is more generous with health potions than most. Unfortunately, you have to beat them out of the bloke holding them. The layout is also hard to plot out. Climbing these spiral towers can disorient you, but do try to explore everywhere, as paths do tend to lead to each character's fire elemental weapon. Or a goodie like the crown, granting you fire protection, which no, doesn't protect you from lava. I think that's it for item pickups. I don't think I ever found a radish in the game, although I've read somewhere that it's some kind of rite of passage to truly finding every secret. Anyway, once you hit this gate, you get into an encounter with the first Minotaur that you gradually have to chip down. He's optional, as you only need the key from the knight with him, who indirectly can help you if he poisons him, but will probably just get killed when the fight starts. You're in a tight space, so watch out for that backswing and you should be fine. This should take some time, so let's get this last talking point out of the way. Part of what makes this game so satisfying are the animations, all mocap by someone who seems to swing a sword for a living. Attacks, except this one, have a precise, controlled, weighty movement that's actually like they're in control of the weapon they're using. When most games go, two-handed weapons are so heavy, so you're stuck with this slow, delayed, uncomfortable swing. Severance acknowledges that you would actually have more control of a weapon in 2 hands, but then decides to shit all over this point by giving you anime swords which actually start to look goofy by the end of the game. Even after you smack someone out of the gene pool, they linger around for a bit with a variety of animations. It's a nice touch and beats just turning on Havoc once a health bar reaches 0. And the result isn't dwelled on unless you want it to be. It's very matter-of-fact, turning around to see a pile of blood and limbs. There's an elegance and weight to it almost, knowing that whoever's going to be cleaning this up is going to have a hard time. Okay, he's down. Gobble that XP up and continue on where you find some zombies bumming around. Heading down gives you a gate that you don't have the key for yet, as well as a shortcut having you drop down and jumping over lava, which the key is held by a Dark Knight close by once you've dropped down here. So loop around again, this is probably where the crown is most useful, and get ready for the most elaborate area for one of the more disappointing weapons. So you have to shoot a button above this door and head down to get the Great Fire Sword. This special move's a firestorm, which isn't bad, but it's also got a high level requirement to do its second special move, the volcano. Not only do you have to deal with this extremely long wind-up, but the move itself also has a delay as part of its animation, so good luck getting the whole combo off. But surely the payoff is worth it, right? Right? Head back down and to your left is another key-holding guard you have to fight along with another goddamn Minotaur. From there, open the weapon storeroom and I learn there's nothing for the barbarian here, just the knight's heavy armor really. Well dang, I'm really low on health and I hope there's no horrible platforming. Oh. I'm finally across with nothing left, but I hope there's a... Oh no. Nope. This is my first full restart because, as I said, this level always gets me once. I also find this Minotaur gets stuck between these two columns, so let's see if I can get the volcano off. Fuck. 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 Okay, here it comes. Fuck. Okay, this is the one. Oh, wait. Yeah, wait, that's all it did. You know what? It's fine. The Minotaur stats are tanky compared to everything else. So you gotta think on your feet if you want to get rid of them efficiently. And then nothing bad ever happened again. The footage got corrupted, so I have to cheat my way back here just to show you the ending. And after all that, the ending actually feels like a victory lap. You're on the topmost section, so anytime you look down you see the earlier parts of the stage. Once you get to this zombie ambush, you can ignore the whole thing and just drop down next to the knight with the key for the last section. Way back at the beginning I mentioned the game having 2 crashing sections. This is the other one. I imagine that's why it corrupted my footage. I'm not sure what sets it off, and what's weirder is that this area is fine for me now, but just save your game before coming here and you should be good. Oh, I guess I found the crash after all. Guess me once, every time. And even then you're still not done because there's 2 lesser demons on you for no reason. I think this is where the salamanders were originally supposed to be. And after all that, we finally faced the boss. One of the strongest yet, really keeps you on your toes, and it's a masterful example of how to do an effective and satisfying boss fight. Are you fucking kidding me? Was that...
Crossing mountains and steppes, jungles and deserts, you shall reach a secret valley where a large river runs. Close to its bank there is a temple. Only the chosen ones shall find it. For when IANNA cast her spell to expel the gods from the earth, she wanted to save her temple from desecration. So she used magic spells to conceal it from view. Now you are in IANNA's favor. Perhaps you shall be her chosen one and prove worthy to take up the sword.
This is where it all comes together. You're in the Temple of IANNA and the intro is quiet. The only combat encounter being this crusty, crunchy golem. But aside from that, it's just some light puzzles whilst you deliver the gem keys to each of the things that aren't doors.
I come to offer you the amber jewel. Please open the door for me.
It's cozy with the murals that combine and pull from different cultures and heavily decorated environment with different textures. Feeling like an undisturbed place. It's the only time where it doesn't feel like you're playing catch up to everyone else. If anything, the orcs are playing catch up with you. As once 3 of the keys are placed, this next section turns into a full-on assault, giving you new paths as they break down walls in this last-ditch effort. A final touch that would have made this moment great is if we just never saw orcs again, but they are used a bit in the next level. Also, if you're reminded of Zen here, don't worry too much about it. Between all this, you also have Minotaur encounters up until the last key, where you have to solve an interesting puzzle that I wish I saw more of.
I come to offer you the black obsidian stone. Please grant me the power to take up the sacred sword.
With the door open, it's now a straight progression to the tomb. Here we get some more rabble with skeletons and the level 25 Dark Knight that can really tear you a new one. And if you thought he was tough, you immediately have to fight another one along with a fucking level 25 Minotaur? I'm only making the point of this because you only reach around level 20 to 21 by the end of the game. So eventually, you have some literal hurdles to jump over where I actually get done in by a skeleton. And another encounter with the cross golem. Then we're finally outside the temple with the Chaos Knight Greeter, who seems to be just a well-equipped bouncer. He's even got his own built-in taser.
Wait, why is he attacking? No, 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 no. Fuck.
It's weird, you'd think a bloke like this would have all these dynamic moves because he seems to be some kind of otherworldly entity. But he moves exactly how you'd expect someone in over-designed fantasy armor would move, which is not very much. All his movements are stilted and robotic, and he's fairly easy when you're using a giant can opener. You don't even get to beat him, he just folds his arms like his shift is over and he pieces out. But we've finally made it to the Sword of IANNA. Oh, and you don't have to drop your weapon here. You get an extra weapon slot just for it, but I probably wasn't going to use the fire sword anytime soon anyway. Then once you're inside, you gotta get... Keep going. No. Yep. No. Oh, god damn it. Once you're there, there's two outcomes. One being you couldn't be asked to find the room, so it kicks you back to the map where you've got a second opportunity to grab them now. Where you're teleported into these locked off smaller sections of the level. But it does feel kind of weird revisiting these old levels. You get a sense that you're in a losing battle as vampires and lesser demons effortlessly spawn around you. You don't even get anything for killing them, and if you move too far away they despawn. But if you don't want to do that, you can insist on doing the last level anyway with the unpowered sword. Some revisited levels actually have alterations on them, like the level 4 tomb level taking place at night now. However, if you have all 6 runes and deliver them through your you get the true Sword of IANNA and you become her champion. She talks and calls you her beloved, so I guess she's your wife now. I also really like the look of this sword. It's almost alien looking in its design compared to everything else. The only thing that kind of bugs me is that her face is upside down when you're swinging her about. Maybe she's a decorative piece. Nearly there now. Starting out this level you're always equipped with IANNA, and if you're the Amazon you get a bad deal because every other character can use her with a regular moveset. With Tucker and Sargon getting to use all their combos too. It also takes -5 from Tucker's defense also, so it's actually hard to die when you're using it. Now here's the point where you finish off the orcs for good. These stragglers outside is all that's left of them, but what you're left with is any excuse to throw minotaurs at you from here on out, which thankfully become a lot easier with IANNA's bonus holy damage, and a very satisfying special move. It almost feels like cheating, but if there's so much as a small elevation in the ground it'll clip it and not work. This is all granted you get the powered up version. The smelly faceless one is a wet noodle in comparison. With no specials and throwing it just limps it to the ground and appears back in your hand. It's like it's not even trying. Unfortunately, if you want to use the special attacks though, you're going to be getting used to waiting for your stamina to come back. And if there's anything that pisses me off more is slowly regenerating fun bars. I wish staying close and dodging and blocking attacks like a near-miss system gave it a little boost, rather than the only choice being backing away in a game where you're mostly aggressive. On top of that, like any good wife, you can use her as a projectile when she comes back. You can just outright bully enemies with it, granted you hit them. So from here you can either take the regular path or take their secret underpass route that has you jump over a bunch of acid. I prefer this one as it saves you from having to backtrack to look through the armory key. And on the way you get one final encounter with the bootleg Shambler meat babies. I like after all this way they still remember to litter the place with these little shits. This castle is mainly to fight a group of dark knights and then a large enemy in a sealed off chamber. The first one has
The necromancer!
looming over you like he's doing a performance review. I kinda wish his presence was throughout the whole level, giving you beef for foiling his plans. Maybe dropping a line about how the health potions are his creation or something. Because what is a necromancer but a really, really shit healer? It could have caused player implications and underlined how powerful he is. But this isn't the case and I just made this whole bit up.
You jump down here. Hey, wanna smell? I just landed on his head. No, 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 no.
No, 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 no.
Smell my feet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fucking, he's getting obliterated. Oh no, don't get an arrow out. No, no.
Jumping over this collapse floor, you've got a treasure trove if you've got the armory key, granting you access to your final weapons and armor if you've missed it. You can even pick up some novelty stuff like the vampire sword that drains your health but regenerates it if you hit living things. It's absolutely useless because you're in a necromancer's castle. The only thing alive is you. From here we're just going from chamber to chamber fighting all sorts. Starting with an iron golem who you'll have a miserable time fighting with a bladed weapon. It does bug me that I did the whole blade bit at the beginning because I look like a doofus using the club for the latter half of the game. But being so adamant to correct this, I beat both golems with the shark sword. Then with the shark sword. The shark sword. Fuck. The shark sword. Fuck. Shark sword. Oh, shark sword. But I'm so adamant to correct this, I beat them with the shark sword out of spite. After that they do the whole fire bones in the dark room again, except with more of them. An ambush of abominations and a lava golem, which yes, there's still a complete pushover. Oh shit, wrong clip. I'm concerned how they got lava up here. A few flaming skeletons later you finally get a constant barrage of abominations. One-on-one these things aren't bad to deal with, but when they drop swarms on you I wonder why they didn't do this more often. Because they do work well in packs. The way they phase in and out make it hard to keep a head count of how many are around you, and there's situations where you have to keep track of one coming towards you whilst the other one's spitting fire at you. One final platforming section later, the game is very generous wanting you to be topped off on health potions. They're all placed near bone piles, which is weird. Oi mate, if you drank those health potions you wouldn't be a skeleton right now. I think it helps with my theory that potions are made through necromancy. Anyway, gather as much as you can and ignore this one in particular.
Are you saying we make it look easy?
Yeah, because I've played this game so much. Oh, it's nice enough to give me another health potion. So I don't even need that. I can see another one down there. You can see it. Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see the 1000 health potion on the corner? Oh, looks like, well, you're gonna see it now. See? There it is. See? See?
Oh, I see it.
Can you see it? I think you can see it.
Yeah, oh, almost.
It's here you come face to face with GURAK. Although instead of fighting him, he tells you how cool this other fella is before he leaves. Instead you fight, Manda Dig Dug or whatever.
The Archontes, the scourge of Urbade, and the perdition of Nippur.
Give me those nippers.
My only advice is not to stay too close to him. His regular attacks have a high chance of just going over you and have easy openings, but he does have a built-in counter to shin huggers. Being level 20 now, let's see what Rage of the Goddess gives us. Oh, it's just the same thing, but slower. He does have some other tricks, like giving himself a temporary power potion buff. So keep your distance for a bit. He's not that difficult, but will probably take a few tries. The actual fight with GURAK is a spectacle, but does have a rough start. Not only does he admit defeat because you sent him back to the drawing board.
Miserable mortal, you have found me and thwarted my plans. Now at last you must die. By the power of Angra Manu, I invoke all evil spirits and creatures of the shadows. Finish him!
The size of his codpiece. Oh, you know he means business. And being a necromancer, of course, he summons more fucking goddamn skeletons with vampire shields. After you kill a few, he starts teleporting around the arena, throwing destructo discs and giant green balls that chase you about. You have to bait him into casting something so you can wither down his bullshit magic shield, because if you're within a certain range he'll just pop away. And this is also the first time you're up against an actual spellcaster, and I'm grateful that they don't turn up as a regular enemy type. IANNA's great for this because he doesn't move much when you're pelting him with throwing weapons. Once you crack open the barrier, he switches to a poison sword that he can use as a boomerang. People swear by being able to catch the sword, but I sat there for 10 minutes trying to do it. Even the object prompt comes up, so it's just taunting you. He uses the energy slash that you have too, and they're fun to make collide. Other than that, he just twirls and prances about, keeping up his unbreakable shield, so you're just waiting for openings. But before you think you've got him cornered, that concern in the back of your head that he's only level 10 finally surfaces, as he pulls a Senator Armstrong 12 years early.
Come on!
Fully healing and is twice as powerful now. But if you have his patterns down, it's more of the same. Bait out his boomerang as often as you can because he's just throwing his only weapon at you. But then finally you beat him. If you didn't power up IANNA, you get the bad ending where he calls you a stupid idiot and kicks you back to the credits. Otherwise, he gives you a bunch of cheesy lines of how you're much cooler than him, and gives you the final stage of the game. Also, if you're fast enough, you can also snatch his sword or shield from him. But I'd go for the shield because it's indestructible.
Where he has gone, no man can follow. Only the protection of the goddess and his gleaming sword can help him.
So, the final level. The Abyss. The honeymoon of IANNA in you. It's strange. It feels off script. We've already won, right? We've seen everything, so the only thing it can do now is pull interesting stuff for the environment. We beat the bad bloke who gets his own high poly render, but there's still more to do. Even the narrator, who usually gives you backstory, doesn't know what to say except, lol, good luck bitch. This beginning section is a lap around the outskirts of the fortress. Just make sure you grab the golem key to the right here when you see the Dark Knight point at you and run away.
You bitch! I'd slap you if it didn't make your face look better.
The first thing you'll notice is that this place is falling apart. Even the level doesn't want you here, but don't let that stop you. By now you should be used to killing minotaurs. It's basically baiting out that attack that ends with a roar, which gives you enough time to set a special off. Grab the guardian key and get yourself into the fortress itself. Usually the level layouts feel like an actual reference place when they can be, but this is the only level to feel like it's actually made for a video game. None of the rooms have a purpose or make sense. Like the existence of this place is constructed around tormenting you. Like how you're still fighting fucking skeletons, damn! You even get this arguably hard to navigate arena with a lava golem. But the lava golem ain't shit. But following this is a fun section with a wraparound trick where you go down these stairs and you're back to where you were. But you can see where the trigger is, but it would have been more impressive if they could have done it seamlessly. What's wrong with these doors? The second time I ever spawned skeletons, and once you reach the main area again you get a showdown with a vampire. He's still easier than the boss fight one, but there is a quirk to this fight I'll let you figure out for yourself. Just don't have him block a special attack at this point. The final stretch consists of dropping a few abominations on you along with these fucking huffing and puffing strutting skeletons. The last elite crack squad equipped with the finest weapons and armor, only to immediately start beating each other up. Hey, do you like bowling?
Nice spare!
Nah, the real fight comes after, where it throws two Chaos Knights at you. It's quite hard to find an opening where you take too much damage. Even if you split them up, the other will cast a homing electric ball at you. It never did much damage, but it still causes you to flinch, which is annoying. After that, you get an actual 1-minute elevator ride. You can drop IANNA and she'll potter about. It's important she gets the exercise. Hey, cheers for watching up to this point, by the way. I haven't done anything like this before, and I hope it's been fun for you as well as me. Doing a video on this game has been an idea in the back of my head for years. I wanted this video out for the game's 20th anniversary, but I wasn't that happy with the script, so I scrapped it. Then I had to focus on more important personal stuff for a while, and it wasn't until recently it's been in the cards again to kind of make creative projects and stuff. If you want to encourage this kind of thing, you can subscribe and stuff. There's a coffee link in the description too if you fancy. I'm thinking this channel is going to be a mess of like my creative endeavors, whether it's just more analysis style videos, artwork, or stuff I find interesting and want to share. Oh, and the poop song thing. Funny thing about that. Oh, ride's over, shit. Once it gets to the bottom, you get another Chaos Knight, and I take it on myself to just style on him. I feel like this was supposed to happen as the elevator was going down, but every elevator is isolated away from enemies whenever you go on one, so I think this is a limitation of how they're programmed. Once he's down, the bridge extends to take you into the last section of the game. Then that's it. Tucker walks off the cliff and that's the end. Oh wait, it's just one last open GL quirk to hit you on the way out. This is just round 2 of Mundo Big Dog. I like to think this is the same one we fought earlier, but now we're on his home turf, fighting him in near complete darkness. I didn't notice this in the first encounter, but it looks like he has a new attack where he strikes the ground making you flinch and drop your weapon, but doesn't really have a follow-up to it unless you're close to him. And by now you're probably used to the timing of IANNA's special moves for him to be a real threat. Oh, make sure you remember to learn to punch. So, after all this, gathering all this extra stuff for a different ending, you're finally in the Lord of Chaos's lair. Who or what exactly are we fighting that needed all this build-up? I don't know, just some little old penis man, I guess. Fuck. Sitting like I do when I'm waiting for the bus. He gives you some grief about taking your body and getting IANNA before being absorbed into his fancy flesh wheelchair.
That are held within that soul.
So yeah, just like the people that heckle me at the bus stop. Between this and the previous level boss, I prefer GURAK. The Chaos Lord is a full-time sorcerer, so he shoots fireballs, a lightning beam, and this meteor shower type thing that I just barely grab a glimpse of. So stay close. The Shark Sword actually does more damage. Using IANNA is fine, but you don't really have the space to use any of her specials. So after all that faffing about for the runes, it's not really a big deal. I reckon it should have been mandatory to finish him off with her. Once he's low, he also powers himself up. It was cooler when GURAK did it, but it's nothing that a power potion can't sort out. He'll teleport to either end of the arena when he can. You can bait out these slow melee swipes he has for an easier time. Pop him down and well done. You've killed a strange old man and beat the game. We see that Tucker and IANNA decided to part ways because he wasn't putting out. She seems high maintenance being a sword and all. So Eva was gone, but, I don't know who we saved. Every friendly NPC dies in front of us. I don't know what else Tucker is good at aside from killing stuff. He could go back to throwing rocks in the lake, I guess. And, that's it for the single player. If I were to give you a comparison for this game, my answer would be Shenmue. What? The rigid movement that opens up with the fighting input system. Both are in genres that would otherwise be frantic and over the top. And both have stilted characters that read off cue cards. But where Shenmue put its effort in its comfy environments and homely pacing that you don't see replicated anywhere else, Severance put it in its combat with its elaborate gore and precision melee. It's probably a stretch to anyone that isn't me, but it's just the presentation of them both, I don't know. There is multiplayer too, however there is a plan to do a follow-up video, because it's a hassle to set up and I'm curious to see if the re-release makes the online more accessible. It's one-on-one where you choose different skins from the 4 characters and arenas that have their own tricks you have to navigate around. It looks really fun. But hang about, we're not done yet. Okay, I'm only going through what I found from interviews from the developers, publishers and press releases, by the way. And all this information has to be regurgitated through me as well. What? You've seen how I've cut this review? You expect me to know how to read? So from what I've found, Rebel Axe Studios struggled to be financially secure during most of its development. Starting out in 1996, the publisher was Friendware, whose name I can't imagine without a It was handling the distribution in Spain. They did a good job and they got some kick-ass special editions. I seriously want my hands on this version, god damn. However, for the international release they originally had Gremlin Interactive on board, which allowed the animation to improve to mocap as a result. Up until 1999, where Gremlin was bought out by Infogames, who decided to drop their contract with Rebel Act. They had studios like Activision giving patronizing visits, but they signed on with Codemasters who did absolutely fuck all to introduce the game internationally. They changed the name to Severance Blade of Darkness because of Blade. However, this was also a way they could trademark Severance should they want to make it their own thing. They don't even acknowledge the game on their own website anymore. The only thing close to a trailer the game got was during Gremlin's time from a London trade show, which was 4 years out of date. The international version did get this triangle thing you can assemble, but I have no idea whose idea that was. Maybe because they only published dirt, Codemasters had a hard time selling an 18 rated game, as well as other variables like the game's dodgy stability, the PC market, piracy, the 6-year development cycle. They were going to need to top charts to recoup costs, which even in the Spanish market they sold under 20,000 full-priced units, so the effort of putting into showing the game off was more likely going to cost even more. Rebel Act did all they could to stay open, having Friendware finance them as much as they could, which led to the head of staff earning nothing themselves just so they could pay their employees. All Codemasters seem to have done is encourage them to close their doors. Had this game met expectations and become a success, we would have had an eager team wanting to upgrade their engine, and get a shot at introducing the game to the console audience due to this little thing called the Xbox, under the name Ultimate Blade of Darkness. Scheduled for 2002, it would have featured graphical improvements like fingers, an actual story and split-screen co-op, as well as a representative from Codemasters pitching it as the goriest game on the Xbox. Even they seemed excited to show it off. There's not a lot of information on this game, unfortunately, just some early models and some in-engine tests. We'll never truly know what this could have been. Also, I don't know why they have this Chaos Knight running around like he's lost his mum in Tesco. So, alternate history aside, where are they now? The team split off doing their own thing, but they're still in the industry. Some going to the mobile company Digital Legends, and others going to Mercury Steam. Notably, there's a lot of familiar names in the Castlevania reboot, especially with the concept art, and the collector's edition sure has a familiar face on it. And currently making their way of releasing Metroid Dread. I feel like a true successor to Blade won't be an opportunity for the original team without a Kickstarter or something. And the closest modern hearing I've heard that uses this game as a direct influence is Mortal Shell.
Like for me personally, I really love the really old one called Blade of Darkness. It's maybe like 20 years.
Which I plan to play at some point. Obviously looking at this game 20 years later there's going to be some close comparisons, but nothing brings it like Blade does. The community, however, does bring a lot of new life to the game to this day. You want better graphics and lighting? There's a HD project and remade shaders to enhance it. Hard day at the office, just want to unwind and slam some dudes? Wait, what? Get Prospero's Gladiator Arena mod that introduces cut enemies and send them straight back to the cutting room floor. Wanna play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? They got that one. Want extra spicy visuals for the dismemberment system that adds new animations and additional enemies to the main levels that create pants-shitting terror? You can also eat the limbs you cut off for some reason and...
Wait, can I cook it here? The meat is now rare. Oh, I ate it. Okay. This is the room I need, but the floor's caved in. It's that little door there. Oh, stop throwing up, please. Throwing up blood everything. No, don't do the move. Why did you do the move? Oh, dumbass. That's what I get for eating his feet, I guess.
Wait, that means... Yeah! Get the Gorinity mod by Vomitus Pink. Fucking vile. But seriously, this is a team member who is very, very late for work tier mod. There's also some fantastic single-player additions like the Fugitive maps and KELBEGEN Assault by Tolmash that lets you play as an— oh my god! There was even an impressive attempt to port the game over to the Doom 3 engine. It is a shame nowadays that you only hear about this game from bullshit lists that don't even name drop the title, because it's been retroactively giving a genre for a game that didn't exist at the time. I'm really hoping the October re-release gets more eyes on Severance because it does deserve more success. It's hard for me not to recommend if you're a fan of hack and slashes, or just melee focused games in general, on the caveat that you don't go in thinking you're expecting you're gonna get a similar experience to something else you've played before. And that's it, I think. The only things I couldn't find was the level editor, the old Flash website. I also wanted to go over that negative Edge review that gave the game a 2 out of 10, but again, a follow-up video will contain these. Severance had a core idea it was working with and knew what it wanted to be from a gameplay standpoint. Tons of enhancements and improvements can still be made. Heck, with every idea I fit in, I still had 30 more that I can't cram into this video, all without pulling it from the original identity as a hack and slash. Alternatively, some devs can always cobble something together that's clearly inspired by Severance. I suppose you would call them Blade-likes? Ooh.